Rob, it's almost impossible to prepare because we have so much to talk about. I figured that we would just start it out with that question of, if they don't know you, who is Rob Swift? Who are you, man?
Man, I could go so many different angles answering that. First thing that comes to mind is I'm the son of Colombian immigrants to America. My dad immigrated to New York City in 1969, got himself established, worked at a factory for a couple of years, sent for my mom and my older brother in 1971, and grinding like old school style. Scarface style, you know what I'm saying? But legally. And they had me in New York City in 1972. So when I get asked, who are you? The first thing that comes to mind is just my parents, my heritage as a Colombian, and the idea that I'm also the firstborn American in my entire family.
Wow.
So having that on my shoulders is sort of like, I don't want to say I feel pressure, but there's an honor that comes with that. And I feel a responsibility to do right by my family name.
You made it, bro.
Yeah, right. You know what I'm saying?
You did it. You made your mark.
That's how I feel, bro, for real, yeah.
So, Rob, we're talking about parents are immigrants. They come here. Rob is here. We all got exposed to music somewhat at an early age. Was that same for you? What do you get exposed to musically? Because I want to figure out how you got into being the type of DJ and the type of music you were playing. What are your early influences? What are you hearing musically from your earliest memory?
A lot of salsa, merengue, cumbia. These are the styles of music that were popular in Colombia. And my dad was a DJ.
Okay.
Wow.
I referenced earlier that my dad had a factory job.
What's his name, man?
Jose Aguilar.
All right, I want to know. Yeah,
Jose
Aguilar.
Marcelino Aguilar is his name. And he worked at a factory, and back then, minimum wage, bro, was like $4.50 an hour. So we lived in a one-bedroom apartment in a tenement building in Jackson Heights, Queens. And I'm not saying this for shock value or anything like that, but I remember having like mice and roaches for roommates, you know?
I'm one of those guys.
One bedroom apartment, and my brother and I used to sleep on cots in the living room. And my parents obviously slept in their bedroom. And I remember in the mornings when we'd wake up right before going to school, we'd fold the cots up and then push them into a corner so that they're not in the way when we had guests come over or whatever the case. And we'd go off to school, you know, do our thing at school, come back home. My brother and I would pretty much look out for each other. My brother's older than me, so he would always have to kind of like pick me up from school. And then if he wanted to go to a friend's house, he'd have to take me with him, kind of thing. And we'd end up back home maybe, let's say, around 4:30, 5 o'clock. My dad would get home like around 5:30, 6, eat dinner. My mom, you know, I love her, man. She used to like come home from work. They actually worked at the same factory. She would come home from work and cook dinner.
We got to give Mom a shout out. What's her name too?
Clara Ruth Aguilar.
Clara Aguilar.
Yep. And I say all that to say, when we would finish dinner, the way my dad would unwind would be by playing music. So he would play a lot of the music that he grew up listening to in Colombia, the salsa, the merengue, the cumbia. So my early memories of music are sitting in the living room watching Starsky and Hutch while my dad played music, you know?
Are you bilingual too?
I'm bilingual too. My Spanish, you know, I would say it's at about 85, 90%.
Okay.
But English is my first language because I was born here and I was around English-speaking kids. The cool thing with that is my parents were smart. They knew that if they didn't surround me around Spanish-speaking kids, that I'd lose that part of the language, my heritage, right? So they would put me in bilingual classes in school, although I didn't need it because I spoke perfect English. They would put me in classes that were bilingual so that I was around other Spanish-speaking kids. So I feel that had a huge impact on me, you know, retaining the language.
So you're at home here too in Arizona then with the large cumbia and
no doubt,
all
for
that.
sure, for sure.
Man, it's funny
Population.
because when you told me your last name, obviously I never knew your last name. I thought your mom just named you Swift. But when you said Aguilar, I was like, damn, for real? I called Tone up. He was like, yeah, man, you didn't know? And I didn't know that you had, you know, Hispanic background. And I thought it was beautiful, man, because we assume that we know a person's heritage based on, okay, there's black skin. Okay, well, it's just black. I see black dude. No, there's a lot more to it. And total sidebar, I was a Spanish major in college because my Spanish teacher took an interest in me and told me to pursue what was important to me. Right. You know, so he's a part of my DJ story. And so I was called Esteban, you know, in high school. And I'm just like, damn, Rob Aguilar. I mean, you know, Rob Aguilar. Okay. It's just crazy that we have so much diversity. But speaking to diversity, what does it look like on the ground in New York where you are from a, you know, demographic perspective? What do you say?
I love that question. Well, what does it look like now or when I was all over Asia, Australia, Canada? I've traveled from the East Coast of America to the West, the North, the South. There is no place as diverse as Jackson Heights, Queens. And so for me as a kid, that was huge because I learned about tolerance in real life situations, interactions with kids that were Jewish. Like I remember during Hanukkah, there was this kid on our block named Stefan that lived across the street from me in another tenement building. And he would bring myself and our other friends over to his house during Hanukkah, and we would eat matzah.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And that's how like I got introduced to a lot of the Jewish culture.